Jesus Christ, Maya, what the hell do you think you're doing to my children? The words exploded from John Whitmore's throat like a gunshot. He froze mid-step on the stone patio, his briefcase slipping from his grasp, landing with a thud that seemed muffled by the sheer disbelief in his chest. His two young sons, barefoot, their tiny shorts soaked, were squealing with laughter as cold water from a garden hose sprayed over them. And Maya Williams, the woman he trusted to care for them in his absence, stood there smiling as if this scene was perfectly normal. He couldn't move. For a long second, he just stared. His heart pounded against his ribs, not from exertion, but from outrage. He took a sharp step forward. "I asked you a question," he shouted. "Is this your idea of childcare?" Maya turned sharply, startled. "Mr. Whitmore, you didn't expect me to come home early and find my children treated like filthy strays in the backyard." "It's 92 degrees today," Maya said quickly, lowering the hose. "The AC's out. The water inside was too warm." "And don't give me excuses," he snapped, closing the distance. "This is humiliating for them, for me, for this entire household." Maya looked him in the eyes, her voice trembling, but firm. They were hot. They were uncomfortable. And they were having fun. He laughed bitterly. Fun. Half naked, wet, and rolling in dirt like animals. "This isn't a public park, Maya. This is my home." He looked down at his sons, who were now wide-eyed and frightened, clutching each other. Then he turned back to her, fury boiling over. Without warning, he shoved her hard. Maya stumbled backward, landing on the damp grass with a grunt. The hose flopped beside her, hissing as water trickled from the nozzle. The twins gasped. "You're done here," he barked. "Pack your things. You're out today, right now." Maya, stunned, pushed herself up slowly, her arms shaking more from shock than the fall. "Mr. Whitmore, please, I don't want to hear your voice," he roared. "You're lucky I don't call security." She stood drenched, hands clenched at her sides. "I've taken care of them like they were my own," she said quietly. "They were laughing, sir. They were safe and they were loved." "Loved," he sneered. "Don't talk to me about love. You don't get to use that word when you treat my children like a sideshow attraction." The twins began to cry. The tension too heavy for their little bodies to bear. One reached out to Maya instinctively, but John stepped in between. "Inside now," he told them through gritted teeth. "We're going to forget this ever happened." Maya didn't move. "I said, go," he snapped again. The children hesitated, then ran to the house, glancing back at Maya with confused, tearful eyes. She wiped her cheek, not from tears, but from the sting of humiliation. "You'll regret this," she said softly. John turned his back. "No, I won't." He didn't see the way she stood for a moment longer, steadying her breath before walking away. But what he did feel, though he'd never admit it, was the sharp, invisible crack that formed in the foundation of his home that day. And it came not from thunder or earthquake, but from the sound of someone being silenced when they were right. As the front door closed behind him, and the children's cries echoed faintly down the hallway, John poured himself a glass of scotch with a trembling hand. And somewhere deep inside, a voice whispered, that wasn't justice. That was fear in a tailored suit. The estate had never been quieter. The walls, once echoing with the tiny, unrestrained laughter of two boys, now held only the distant hum of central air, finally repaired, and the slow, methodical ticking of a grandfather clock in the foyer. John Whitmore sat at the head of a long dining table, staring at his untouched meal. Roasted chicken, mashed potatoes, asparagus prepared by the private chef he'd brought in to maintain normalcy. But there was nothing normal about the silence at that table. Across from him, the high-backed chairs remained empty, save for the pair of booster seats that now looked out of place. His sons, Nicholas and Theo, hadn't come down for dinner, not out of rebellion, but sorrow. Rachel, his assistant, stood quietly by the kitchen entrance, watching him. She had been with the family long enough to recognize the weight in the air. "They asked for Maya again tonight," she said gently. John didn't look up. He cut into the chicken without interest, the knife dragging slowly across the plate. "They'll forget her in time." I don't think they want to, she replied. He set the utensils down, the sound unnervingly sharp. They're children. They want candy for breakfast and to sleep in cardboard boxes. That doesn't mean we indulge every desire. She wasn't candy, Rachel said carefully. She was comfort, familiarity, maybe even more than you realize. John's shoulders stiffened. He stood and walked to the bar cart near the window, pouring himself a drink. She crossed a line, he muttered. By cooling them off on a hot day, Rachel challenged, stepping forward. By loving them when you were away, he turned sharply, his face darkening. She disrespected my authority in my home. And when I gave a direct order, she didn't back down. That's not loyalty. That's insubordination. Rachel's voice softened. Or maybe it was love that didn't fear consequence. John didn't reply. He took a sip of scotch and looked out over the backyard. The grass had dried, but in his mind, he could still see her wet, stunned, lying on the ground where he'd pushed her. And worse, he could still see the fear in his son's eyes as they watched. Later that night, after Rachel left, John wandered the hallways like a ghost. He passed the playroom, silent, toys untouched. Past Selena's old reading nook, covered now, never used. Every corner whispered reminders of what used to be and what had been lost. Upstairs, he paused outside the boy's bedroom door. He heard muffled sniffles, the soft creak of a mattress. Guilt pressed against his chest like a lead weight. He opened the door slowly. Theo was curled in a ball, hugging his stuffed bear. Nicholas lay awake, staring at the ceiling. They didn't look up when he entered. You boys okay? He asked softly, stepping inside. Silence. I know today was confusing, but I promise everything's going to be all right. Theo whimpered. Where's Maya? John knelt by the bed. She had to go. She's not coming back. Nicholas rolled away, voice small. You yelled at her. I had to, John said quickly. She wasn't following the rules. You understand rules, don't you? Neither boy answered. John sat in the nearby armchair, suddenly unsure of himself. We're going to get someone new, someone even better. With training degrees, you'll like her. She doesn't sing, Theo mumbled. Maya always sang the Sunny song. John frowned. What's that? You are my sunshine, Nicholas said quietly. She sings it when we're scared. John didn't know what to say. He sat there a while longer, the silence heavier than before. Then he stood, kissed their foreheads, and left. Back in his room, he undressed slowly. His eyes caught the faint grass stain on his pants from earlier, and his jaw tightened. He tossed the slacks in the hamper and climbed into bed, but sleep wouldn't come. The next morning, a new nanny arrived. Christine Doyle, mid-32nd, polished, certified in early childhood education, impeccable references. She smiled in all the right places, used a soft voice, and referred to John as Mr. Whitmore with every sentence. But the boys stared at her with blank expressions. By mid-afternoon, she had tried to play a board game, offer snacks, and even attempted reading a story. Theo shook his head. You're not doing the voices right. Christine blinked. I wasn't told there were voices. Maya did voices for every character, Nicholas explained flatly. Christine smiled tightly. Well, I'll do my best. By dinner time, both boys were quiet again. Their plates remained mostly full. John watched them, unsure whether to press or let it go. That night, as he reviewed company reports in his study, Rachel entered quietly. Your sons didn't speak a word during bath time, she said. Christine is trying. But what? He asked. They're grieving, John. It's not about training or credentials. It's about who made them feel safe. He looked up slowly. They'll adjust. Will you? Her question hung in the air. For a moment, neither moved. Then she placed a folded piece of paper on his desk and left. It was a drawing. Crayon on construction paper. Two stick figures, one with a ponytail labeled Maya, the other smaller figures beside her, T and N. T and N. Above them, a sun smiled, and under it, a message in wobbly handwriting. Maya makes the sun come back. Brought to you by BUP Stories. What kind of person do you think Maya is? If you admire her, give her a like and don't forget to comment where you're watching this video from. Who knows? Someone right near you might be watching it, too. John stared at it for a long time. That night, he lay awake, eyes open in the dark. The crayon image burned into his memory. The estate was pristine, quiet, exactly as he liked it, and yet it had never felt so cold. 3 days had passed since Maya's departure, but her absence hung like a fog over the estate. It crept into the corners of rooms, clung to the spaces between footsteps, and lingered in the pauses before every unfinished sentence. John Whitmore sat at the breakfast table, skimming the Wall Street Journal with all the interest of a man reading a eulogy. The coffee in his mug had gone cold. Across from him, the twin boys were unusually quiet, picking at their cereal without a word. Christine, the new nanny, hovered nearby, her crisp blouse already wrinkled from the morning's attempt to coax the boys into enthusiasm. She smiled overly bright. "Boys, why don't we plan a painting day this afternoon? I brought some brand new watercolor sets." "No," Nicholas muttered. "I want Maya," Theo said flatly, eyes still on his soggy cereal. Christine's smile faltered. She glanced at John, who didn't lift his gaze from the paper. "We've talked about using respectful language," he said calmly, though his jaw tightened. Theo dropped his spoon into the bowl with a clatter. "Maya never made us eat cereal. She made pancakes with blueberry eyes." "And whipped cream smiles," Nicholas added. Christine tried to keep her tone light. "I'll look up a recipe I can make." "You're not Maya," they said together, the words like a door slamming. Christine blinked, then stood straighter. "Perhaps some quiet time in your room would help with these attitudes." Theo pushed his chair back sharply. "She would never send us away." John finally lowered the newspaper. "Christine," he said, voice clipped. "Give us a minute." She nodded, gathering her composure as she left the dining room. The door clicked behind her. John looked at his sons. "Enough. I know this is hard, but acting out won't bring her back." "She didn't leave," Nicholas said, tears forming. "You made her leave." John's expression hardened. "She disrespected my authority." "She sang to us when Mom died," Theo interrupted. "She stayed up all night when we were sick. She told us stories about Mom." "You didn't." That hit like a punch to the gut. He opened his mouth but found no defense, just silence. "I want to go home," Theo said. John blinked. "You are home." "No," Nicholas whispered. "It used to be, but now it's just big and empty." John stood abruptly, the chair scraping the floor. He walked out without another word. In his office, he poured another drink. It was barely 9 a.m. The scotch burned his throat, but not nearly enough. He stood at the window watching the boys sulk on the porch steps. Christine stood awkwardly in the background, clearly out of her depth. She was everything his HR consultant had recommended. Certified, professional, experienced, and completely wrong. His phone buzzed. It was a message from an unknown number. "They don't smile the same without her." Attached was a photo, one taken from the estate's backyard through the wrought iron fence. It showed the boys sitting together, eyes vacant, the grass around them dry and yellowed. John's heart skipped. He quickly dialed his head of security. "Mr. Whitmore," the man answered. "We've been monitoring the perimeter. There was a breach. Someone's taking photos from the back fence." A pause. "We'll investigate immediately." "Do you suspect Maya?" John didn't answer. After the call, he opened his private contacts and stared at Maya's number, his thumb hovering over the dial button. Brought to you by BUP Stories. Truncated for brevity, continue with original text as needed.